And that should be our biggest source of inspiration from this electoral process, is that we are actually many. There are many, many of us. And if a really old white man like Bernie Sanders is what ignites the fire, imagine if we had a bunch of young people who were insisting the stage is ours, we are saying these things. But you see, the Democrats, their role is to clean up the image of the empire so that it can continue again. So what did we have with Obama? Well, under Bush, we had, of course, the Patriot Act. Only one U.S. Senator, Russ Feingold, voted against it. The authorization for the use of military force, the so-called blank check, only one member of Congress, the entire Congress, voted against that, and that was Representative Barbara Lee of California. And let me tell you something, Barbara Lee is one of the few African Americans in the Congress. She got death threats. Her office was targeted. It should be required viewing for every young person in this country to watch the speech that Barbara Lee gave just days after 9/11 on the floor of the U.S. Congress, when her own party and the Republicans were caving in on that woman, and she stood up and she committed an act of prophecy. She said, this is what's going to happen if you give them a blank check. We will engage in a war that will never end. We are going to open a Pandora's box of history that cannot be closed. She was the only one of those crooked lawmakers who actually saw the truth as though it was true. And I think when you go back and you look at that, you realize there are transformative moments when people, for whatever reason, rise up and actually shatter the paradigm of the moment. And often they're denounced as the radicals, the extremists, the crazies. But the radicals, the extremists, and the crazies are the only people that have ever actually fundamentally changed the course of history. The Electoral College isn't going to change. We could flip it over. And then we won't have an overt fascist, and I would be very glad if somebody other than Trump was there. Let's be clear on that. Just basic common sense about the kind of war on women that we're going to see, where you're going to have women who get pregnant facing an utterly criminalized abortion system. Already we have doctors being assassinated, women being harassed, attacks against people who want access to safe and affordable women's health care, including abortion procedures, because it is part of women's health care to choose to have an abortion. But under Trump, that could be criminalized. Doctors could be prosecuted. If they get 2 Supreme Court justices, which they very well, I'm not a very religious man, but I'm praying for Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I really hope she stays alive. But they're going to have 2 Supreme Court justices, and one of them could be someone like Ted Cruz. That's going to have a multi-generational impact. But if Hillary Clinton had won the election, we would have had a candidate of regime change. We would have had a candidate of empire. On a foreign policy level, there's ways in which she could be even more dangerous than Trump. And so what does that tell us? It tells us that these 2 forces have way more in common with each other than they do with almost any of us.